Welcome to a Thursday edition of the Investor Guys podcast with myself and Mr. Bill Barnett. How you doing there, Bill?
Mr. Mills, it is excellent to see you, sir. I am doing incredible this morning. Thank you for asking. You're looking very dapper.
You as well. I like the tie in the matching pocket square there.
Thank you. So the pocket square is kind of my thing, you know.
Yeah, I noticed you do. And you know what? Actually, what's funny is I notice more often when you don't wear one. You do wear a pocket square quite often, but every once in a while I catch you without one. But I try to keep my mouth shut and not point it out. So
that's quite all right. That's quite all right. We got some great stuff to talk about today, brother.
You were telling me you had all kinds of great articles that you had gleaned from your information pipeline.
Yep.
You're going to share some of those with all of us today. Go ahead and kick it off.
The thing I think I'd like to start with, Kev, is I found this Redfin study, and the name of it is House Flips Rebound. That's great for us as investors. ROI plummets. Terrible for us as investors. And that's what I wanted to share with you first. Real estate investors in the second quarter of 2021 have purchased and flipped 79,733 single-family homes and condos nationwide, according to the latest ATOM home flipping report. So almost 80,000, a shade under 80,000 properties in one quarter, second quarter. That's good. That accounts for almost 5% of all home sales for the quarter, which indicates an intensifying yet relatively slow home flipping market in the first quarter increase, and is the first quarter increase in more than a year. The buy flip sell ratio rose from 3.5% in the first quarter. Still, it's not where it was this time a year ago when it was at 6.8% of all sales. The rate remains below typical numbers seen in the past decade or so. Also, the report showed profit margins on flips dipped to a 10-year low, while gross profit on a typical home flip nationwide, and that's the difference between median sales price and median price paid by the investor, rose in the second quarter. So the typical home flip gross profit rose to $67,000, a 2.4% increase from $65,400 in the first quarter, and a 3.1% increase from flat $65,000 this time last year. So the average across the nation for the quarter was $67,000 per flip. The more important measure of profit margins slid downward, with the typical gross flipping profit of $67,000 in the second quarter, translating into just a 33.5% return on investment compared to the original acquisition price. The national gross flipping return on investment is down from 37% in the first quarter and down from 40.6% a year ago. It's the lowest profit point since the first quarter of 2011, when the housing market had yet to start recovering from the price slump brought on by the great Obama recession of the late 2000s. The hot housing markets led to price increases on both ends of the flip. Home prices run up and have hit an all-time high, 267,000, up 10.6% for the quarter. Still failed to surpass the increases that investors were absorbing. Investors are absorbing 13.6% quarterly, 25% annually when they bought their homes that were sold in the second quarter. So that gap between rising prices, which is more on the purchase side, than the resale, led to the profit margins dropping to this 10-year low. So when you look at this, what they're looking at is, what kind of return is an investor getting on a flip? You and I know that most investors, when they go into the flip market, I've been doing flips, still doing flips, love flips. I love the rehab. However, most investors, especially new investors, have a very unrealistic expectation of the number of properties that they can flip, the speed of the properties that they can flip. So most investors say, well, I want to get this first flip done. I want to get wrapped up and done in 30 days. I'm like, really? Well, they're like, yeah. I'm like, well, okay. So you're paying all cash. Well, I could if I had to. Well, you're going to have to if you want it done in 30 days. And even paying all cash, you're probably looking at 10 days to 2 weeks from the time you go under contract. So a third to a half of this time frame that you have in your mind is going to be gone. So during that time, and we teach how to do this particular piece of it. During that time, you have everybody scheduled as you teach. You schedule everybody so that the day we close, we hit the ground running. We got multiple contractors in there, and boom, we're rocking, and this thing is exploding. But even having it managed incredibly well, which is what we teach how to do, it's going to take you a couple of weeks unless it just needed getting the carpet cleaned or something. If you're doing a basic flip and basic rehab, you're going to be in there 2 or 3 weeks anyway. And so now you're already outside of your 30-day time frame, and that's before you get it on the market. So I massage their ego a little bit and realign their thinking with, you're going to hear all kind of crap when you hear speakers. You're going to hear all kind of you can do this in this time frame, you can do it in that time frame. But the reality is, in a traditional flip environment, you're buying it. It's going to take you 30 to 45 days if you've got financing involved in anything from the day you go under contract. Then, if you can get it rehabbed in 30 days, hats off, terrific. Most of the time, that's not the case. But let's say that you can get it back on the market in 30 days. And then we have some marketing time involved. Let's just say it's a week. Okay, so you got a week. And then your buyer comes in. Well, your buyer, if you're flipping, you're looking, in most scenarios, you're looking for a retail buyer. So that buyer is going to be looking at 30 to 45 days on the close, depending on what their lender and title company how they can perform. So you're looking at 90 to 120 days in a good environment. And I don't care. I'll go up against all these guys that you shouldn't, a flip should never take you more than 30. I've heard people say that from stage, and I want to throw stuff at them, but that would be professionally inappropriate. But they're banking on people who have no experience and who've never done a flip, that sounds great.
Yeah,
but that's not
getting them excited
not
about
realistic.
Not true. No, we're up on a break, but we're going to talk about more specifically about this when we come back. We'll be back in just a second. And we are back, and I've actually moved locations because there was a super hot spot on the last set, and it was just bugging the crap out of me. So we've changed that. Problem. So if you guys are wondering why it looks different now, we're just changed locations. Before we went on the break, we were talking about just how the cost of flip houses are going up and just everything involved with that. Now, I want to address what Bill was talking about, and then I want to talk about why flips have gone up so much. You're going to hear that you can flip a house in 30 days, or you'll have somebody standing on stage, oh yeah, just get in and out 30 days, 45 days at the most, and yada, 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 yada. Most hard money lenders are going to give you 6 months because they know that it's not going to be 30 days. Okay. If there's going to be 30 days and 45 days, you'd be able to get 30-day and 45-day loans packaged from hard money lenders. If you go to a hard money lender and you say, I'm going to get this done in 30 days, they're going to laugh at you, and they're probably not going to give you the loan because they're going to think that you're crazy.
Yeah.
It would be great to do it.
Or inexperienced.
Yes. It would be great to do it in 30 days. Fact of the matter is it just takes too long to do that. What Bill didn't include is a lot of times you have materials that you have to order. And especially in this current market, You can't get that done sometimes in 30 days, depending upon what you want to do.
Yep.
Carpet right now, I've noticed lately, has been taking longer. If you're ordering carpet that's not already on the shelf at your local carpet store or Home Depot or Lowe's or whatever, and there's less and less and less on the shelves there right now, you're gonna wait 2 weeks, 3 weeks, maybe even 4 weeks to get that carpet in. Here's the thing. Yes, time is money. The sooner you get it done, the better. But if you are basing your numbers on getting this done in 30 days or 45 days or even 60 days in order for you to be able to make money, okay, then you're using the wrong formulas. And part of your formula is time, okay? And time equates to money. And I'm not saying the old, time is money thing. It is, all right? The amount of time that you're spending on this project is time that you could be spending someplace else that may be more profitable. You need to keep that in mind right off the bat. Okay. The amount of time that you have the money that you're borrowing from somebody else, if you're not using this money yourself, if it's your own money, this is money that could be working someplace else if you don't trim off the amount of time that you need to trim it off. If you're paying interest on this money, then it's costing you more money. So time is money, but don't say, oh, I can get this done in 30 days. I can get this done in 45 days. Say I can get this done in 6 months and hope that you get it done in 4 or 5. Okay. That's more realistic. Budget for 6 months. If you're making a profit for 6 months and you think you might be able to still be able to get it done in 4 or 5, then great. That's what you want to look at. If you're saying the only way I can make this work is if I get this in and out. And that's the other thing too, is they make you think that you could have somebody in there for 30 days flipping this thing, and 2 days later somebody's bought it, and 2 days after that you've got a check. It doesn't work that way. Okay. Yeah. You've got to put it up on the market. It usually takes 3 or 4 or 5 days quickly to get it listed on the MLS. That's a fast listing on the MLS because they've got to do photos, they've got to get it up on the MLS, they've got to do all the paperwork. Then you've got people who have to come and take a look at it. If you're not showing them yourself, okay, and again, you're going to be there all the time. Every single person who calls, you're going to have to run over there and show them this particular property. That's going to take a lot more of your time. That means you're not out looking for other deals. You're not doing other deals, okay? You're going to have somebody purchase this property. Somebody's going to walk in and they're going to say, I love this property. I want to buy it. Okay. And let's say this is a best case scenario situation. This isn't somebody who has to put together financing or anything else. You're still talking about 30 days or more before it actually closes, and you've got a check in your hand. So you're already talking about minimum. If you can flip this property, if you can do everything you need to do, you're talking about 3 months already minimum before you look at a check in your hand. And that is if you had everything perfectly aligned in the universe to be able to do all the work that you had to do in this particular property. Now, I'm not going to say that you can't do all that work in 30 days. Okay. There are a lot of properties that we buy. Bill and I have both had them, and any investor that's been around for a long time, and we love these properties. They essentially need paint and maybe carpet. Okay. You can do paint and carpet in the best case scenario, you can do that in 30 days. Yeah. So if we're walking into a unit that just needs fresh paint on it and it needs new carpet, or it needs the carpet pulled up and it needs the floors cleaned, we can do that in 30 days. All right. But you're going to know that property when you walk into it. If you're walking in, you're saying, I need new kitchen, I need new bathrooms, we need to knock this wall out, or we need to repair that wall. You're talking a week or two just to get contractors in there and get bids back out to you. So let's talk about why it's so expensive right now. The market has changed. If we are doing flips, we are in the construction business. We may not be contractors, but we are in the construction business. That is our product. Okay. Costs of construction products have blown up. Some of them are more than 300% more than what they cost literally just a year ago. And
But Kevin, you have to be so excited about the incredible economic progress that in just 9 months the Biden administration has made. It's amazing. They're going to put us all out of business if we don't get those idiots out of Washington. Midterms better be, you better vote what your bank account says for your family. Forget everybody else. For your family, you better be voting for your family, or you're all going to be on welfare, period, which is
Great for us
their
to have Section 8.
ultimate dream. It's a great segue to Section 8, but that's their ultimate dream, is that we all are totally dependent on them. Get those idiots out of there. The reason that we have supply chain issues is because of them, not because the supply chain wasn't broken before January. It's become broken since January 20th to now. So in a scant 9 months, they've wrecked the economy, and they're going to continue to do that until it's completely destroyed. Oh, and inflation's not an issue. They're going to continue to lie and destroy. We'll get back to housing now. Thank you. I
We're on a
yield my
break,
flow.
so we'll get back to that when we get back in just a second. We'll see you in just a second on the. And, Bill brings up an interesting point. First of all, supply chain. Okay. The other thing that we're looking at, especially on a lot of chemicals that we're working with in the construction industry, is a lot of those are petrochemicals. And we have not seen the beginning of this yet. If this green agenda moves forward, and I'm going to try to keep from being political, but if this green agenda moves forward, a lot of the products that we have access to, we are no longer going to have access to. And we're going to have to pay more for the green product that supposedly does the same, that does not do the same. I'll give you a really quick story that should emphasize my point on that. I have a publishing company, and I used to have my own printing company in Rancho Dominguez, California. We used to it was an awesome, crazy business. It was great. We had these huge giant presses. We could print newspapers. We could print posters. We actually did print posters for Taco Bell. Taco Bell was one of our clients. They were in Irvine at the time. The state of California decided that the chemicals that we used for cleaning the machines were no longer available in California because they affected air quality. So when you're done running a process through the press, you run chemicals that clean all that ink off of the rollers, out of the reservoirs, out of everything else. And at the very end, you capture all of that liquid, you run it through a filter, and it goes back into a big giant 50-gallon drum, and you continue to use it and use it and use it until it no longer becomes effective. And we would do that, and you could typically run it through 5 to 7 times, depending upon what type of ink you were using, before it became no longer effective. We were no longer allowed to use that. And I understand partly why, because if you got too close to the machine when that thing was running through, you got kind of lightheaded, and people who've been in the printing industry for a while, you can kind of tell they've spent a lot of time around some heavy duty chemicals. So I kind of understand, but that doesn't mean that there's not precautions that were supposed to have been taken. Not everybody does take them, as far as wearing masks and breathers and everything else. The chemicals that they replace them with cost 10 times as much for that 50-gallon drum. Okay, we had to pay 10 times more for that 50-gallon drum. That same 50-gallon drum, we also, on top of the purchase price, had to pay a disposal fee. So we had to pay a disposal fee for that 50-gallon drum that was $125, I think, for that 50-gallon drum. Now, we would run it through the machine, and it would evaporate while we were running it through the machine. So we had to run 3 times as much through the machine, and there was nothing at the end to capture, because that 3 times the volume would evaporate inside the machine. So we were using this thing up almost 30 times faster than the less expensive chemical. There was nothing to dispose of because it literally evaporated as it was running through the machine. So I asked every time, what are we paying the disposal fee for? Because there's nothing to bring back. Sorry, it's a California fee. We have to charge it, yada, 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 yada. I get it. It got so ridiculous that we ended up moving the entire factory, everything, to south of the border in Mexico, where we could still use the same stuff that we used before, and labor costs were less. We literally moved to the same facility where all the surfboard manufacturers got kicked out of, because they could no longer use the foam that they were using for building their surfboards. So they all moved just south of the border to Mexico so they could make their blanks and ship them back up to California so that they could be shaped and sold. This is This is a classic example of administration getting ahead of themselves, thinking they're doing something good and actually causing lots and lots of damage. I wasn't the only printing company to move out of California. Hundreds of them, maybe even thousands of them did for that reason. Other companies who use similar chemicals that were also outlawed, they also moved out. All that tax revenue, all those people, all that income, it was gone from the state. We're going to see that same thing happen if the current administration has their way with their green agenda. We are going to lose chemicals that they use to treat the wood so that the wood stays durable longer. We're going to lose chemicals that we use for stain, that we use for cleaning, that we use for paint, that we use for everything. So the prices are going to continue to go up. And that's really just part of it, because a lot of you have heard that there has been a labor shortage. All right. And contractors, ourselves included, because I have a company in California, we are looking for people to do our skilled laborers are the same skilled laborers that we've had for the last 3, 4, 5 years. But we have a lot of guys that just do hard work. They're the guys throwing, drywall. They're the guys, hauling lumber in. They're the guys picking trash up off of the site. Those guys are transitory. They go wherever the work happens to be that particular day. It is hard to find those particular workers, and I don't want to have to pay $80 and $90 an hour for somebody who is a skilled laborer to have to pick up trash off of the site. So our cost is going up for construction. That means our cost for being an investor, having to pay contractors and construction crews, is also going up. So we're looking at labor and we're looking at materials that has literally blown up. The cost of a house in many markets has literally in the last year gone up over $150,000 just to build, even more in some markets.
San Francisco.
San
Francisco, the median price of a home in San Francisco last quarter hit $1 million.
I'm talking about the cost to build the house.
I understand that. But it all flows down, and in the flip market, that's going to have enormous. It already is having. We went through this doing fences on our properties. We typically put fences, privacy fences, on all of our properties, and fence lumber went through the absolute roof overnight, and then we hit a period. Now it's kind of come back down. We hit a period where you couldn't buy it; it just wasn't there, and so we're seeing it come back down now. It's not come back down to where it was, nor likely will it, but it's starting to get reasonable to some degree again, and we're starting to see some inventory again. That was all completely made up. Trees did not stop growing. Lumber mills did not stop producing. It was just it's the kind of crap that goes on right now across it, and it's going to hit every single thing if we allow it to. And in the real estate market, you got to look at what is it that is going to be sustainable for you. Now, when we come back from break, we're going to shift into.
Wait, this is our final segment. So we'll have to
we're not coming back. We're not coming back. So next show then. Sorry about that.
No worries.
Next show we will shift into what the current political environment is telling you as a real estate investor to do. So you want to make sure that you come back and visit us right here on the Investor Guys Podcast Tuesday at 3:00 Eastern when we release the show. Or join us online at investorguyspodcast.com, investorguyspodcast.com. You got the archive. We're at 130 plus episodes in the archive. Make sure you join us Tuesday, because we're going to show you the transition where you always pay attention to what the market is telling you to do. And Tuesday, we will tell you what this market is telling you to do.
Yes. And we're not trying to discourage you from doing flips. We're not trying to discourage you from investing.
No, just be realistic.
Just
be realistic.
We're pointing out that it is all about the numbers. Okay. You need to make sure you understand what the numbers are, what the numbers mean, and how the numbers work for you or work against you before you invest yourself into a deal. We'll talk more about that on our next Investor Guys podcast. We will see you soon. Happy investing. Have a good day,
everybody.